Happy Monday, everybody. So we're in John chapter 8 today. And John chapter 8 has some cool stories. One of them that I really like is about Jesus' encounter with the adulterous woman and how he intervened for her and how he somehow found a position between her accusers and her without taking sides. But I love that story. He who is without sin cast the first stone. He bends down, writes in the sand. Just a really cool story. I want to encourage you to check that out if you haven't already. The end of John chapter 8, there's this awesome moment where Jesus finally declares his deity. And he says, before Abraham was born, I am. And if you remember that I am statement, that's what Jesus or God told Moses to say when they asked who it was that sent him. Tell them, I am who I am. I am has sent you. So it's an awesome testimony right there. And that's really what ticks people off, because they pick up stones and they try to stone Christ, but then he just escapes. Love it. Love that picture. But the verses that I wanted to talk about today, they're John chapter 8. It's verses 31 and 32. And those verses say, so Jesus was saying to those Jews who had believed him, if you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. If you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear that? If you continue in my word, I honestly, the first thing that I thought of is you got to listen to me. You got to listen to me. You got to do what I say. You got to obey, right? And I think a lot of times we look at that and we think of it and we think of Christianity or we think of religion as just this list of rules. And maybe religion is just a list of rules, list of expectations that we try to achieve. And maybe religion is something that we try to measure up to. And it gets constraining and it gets exhausting. But when I read this, I wonder how often that's where our mind goes first. That I don't know if I want to follow Jesus or not, because it's just strict and there's all these rules and there's all these things that I'm supposed to do and not supposed to do, and I just don't know if I want to do it, right? I want to live my life. And I think that's a natural thing for us to go to. But keep in mind that Jesus was talking to religious people. He was talking to people that were already living that way, that were already trying to stick to these strict set of laws and rules. And so obviously he's not advocating for that because he says, if you listen to me and if you keep my word, then you'll be set, the truth will set you free. So I don't think what Jesus is trying to push is more rules and more do's and don'ts. I think what Jesus is trying to show them is that he's come so that they could have a freedom. He's come so that they don't have to be enslaved to those things. And I think we think of Jesus a lot of times in terms of religion, as he's just another list of rules that we have to follow. But Jesus actually sets us free of that. And when Jesus comes, he brings a deeper meaning to the Ten Commandments even. He didn't just give us the Ten Commandments just to give us 10 rules to follow and not follow. He didn't say don't murder just because he wanted to make a rule. He's telling you, if you want to live a life of freedom, the best way for you to live that life is to not kill people. If you want to live a life of freedom, if you really want to be set free, don't steal. If you really want to live a life that's free, if you really want to live a life that's abundant, then don't covet what everybody else has. And so, it just gives more meaning to it. So Jesus hasn't come to give us more religion. Jesus hasn't come to give us more rules. Jesus has come to set us free. And so I want to challenge you to think about your relationship with Christ outside the bounds of religion for a minute, and think about it just purely as a relationship where Jesus is trying to teach us the best way to live life. The best way to live a life where we aren't enslaved by a list of rules, but a way that we are trying to live life to its fullest. Now, we all need structure. I'm not saying that structure is bad, and I'm not even saying that rules are bad. But when we try to live life obedient to rules just for the sake of rules, who wants to really do that? But when we know that if we abide by these things, we're going to be living life to the best life that we could possibly be living, that's what I'm after. And that's what Jesus is after. That's what Jesus is illustrating to us. When he tells us to love our neighbor, he's not saying that's a rule that you have to keep to measure up. He's saying that's the best way to live life. So I want you to really listen to these words that Jesus is saying. If you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine. So if you follow me, then you're truly my disciples. You're truly trying to pursue the life that I'm trying to give you. And you'll know the truth, and the truth will make you free. You'll know the best way, the most righteous way, the most godly way to live. And in the end, that kind of life produces more peace, produces more joy, and it produces more freedom than anything else that this world has to offer, than anything else that we could conjure up in our own minds. So continue in the Word of God. Continue in it because it's the best way to live. Don't look at it as a list of rules and do's and don'ts that you have to be burdened by. Look at it as the best advice anybody's ever given to live the best life anybody could ever live. That's what Jesus has to offer us. That's what Jesus wants to give you, a life of freedom. So that's what Jesus is challenging his disciples with, that you will become free. And then he goes on in the rest of John chapter 8 to talk about more in detail what he means by that. He says in verse 36, if the Son of Man makes you free, you will be free indeed, not burdened by the rules, but living the life the best way you possibly can because you're pursuing the life that Christ is displaying for you. So stay in his word. Stay in his word. Continue to pursue him because he knows the best way for us to live life. And guys, especially as you are just beginning life, finishing up high school, going into college, now is the time to set up that strong foundation by staying in his word so you know the best way to live. So that when you start facing real challenges and real questions in life, you know which direction to go. Not because it's a bunch of rules, but because you've listened to the best advice giver ever in Jesus. So follow him and follow him faithfully. And you'll be free to live the life that he has for you. Guys, have a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow for John chapter 9.